What happens when a royal guest forgets he's not in the palace anymore? It only took one comment about American freedom for Prince Harry to get himself thrown off one of the biggest talk shows on television. Let me take you back to that night. The studio audience was packed. The cameras were rolling, and Bill Maher was sitting across from Prince Harry, ready for what everyone thought would be a friendly conversation. But friendly? That's not how this went down. Bill started things off, the way he always does, with a smile and a simple question. So Harry, you've been living in America for a while now. What's been the biggest adjustment for you? Harry leaned back in his chair, looking comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. Well, Bill, I have to say, the biggest adjustment has been realizing how little Americans actually understand about real culture and sophistication. The audience went quiet. You could hear people shifting in their seats. Bill's smile didn't move, but his eyes changed. Real culture? He asked. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. Harry didn't pick up on the warning in Bill's voice. You know, in Britain, we have history. We have tradition. We have standards. Here in America, everything is just so new, so rushed, so obsessed with money and fame. Bill nodded slowly. Right. And you moved here because I wanted privacy, Harry said, without a hint of irony. Something that's impossible to find in Britain with all the press attention. Privacy, Bill repeated. The thing you're talking about right now. On my television show. Being broadcast to millions of people. A few people in the audience laughed nervously. Harry's face tightened. That's different. I'm choosing to be here. Okay, Bill said, still keeping his tone light. So, let's talk about choice. You've been pretty vocal about a lot of political issues since moving here. Climate change, social justice, media responsibility, all important stuff. But here's what I'm curious about. You grew up in literal palaces, flew on private jets your whole life, and now you're telling Americans how to live? Harry sat up straighter. I'm using my platform for good, Bill. Something I think more people in your position should do, instead of just making jokes about everything. The audience was completely silent now. Bill put his hands together, still smiling, but it was a different kind of smile. My position? Let's talk about positions. I worked my way up from doing comedy in clubs. You were born into royalty. So when you lecture people about privilege, do you see how that might come across as, I don't know, a little bit hypocritical? That's not fair, Harry said, his voice rising. I gave up my royal duties. I walked away from that life. You walked away to a mansion in California, Bill shot back. That's not exactly a sacrifice. That's a relocation. Harry's face was getting red now. You don't understand what it's like. The pressure, the expectations, the constant judgment. Bill leaned forward. You're right. I don't know what it's like to grow up as a prince, but I do know what it's like to work for a living. And I know what it's like to watch someone who's had every advantage in life complain about how hard things are. I've been through more than you could possibly imagine, Harry said, his voice sharp. Have you? Bill asked. Because from where I'm sitting, you've had a pretty good run. And now you're sitting here, on my show, insulting the country that took you in and gave you the freedom to do whatever you want. Harry stood up slightly, then sat back down. I wasn't insulting America. I was making an observation. An observation, Bill said. Right. So when you said Americans don't understand real culture, that was just an observation? It's true though, isn't it? Harry said, and this is where things really started to fall apart. Look at your politics. Look at your healthcare system. Look at your education. Everything here is broken, and nobody wants to admit it. The audience started murmuring. Bill held up a hand. Okay, hold on. You're in my country, on my show, and you're going to sit there and tell me that everything here is broken? I'm just being honest, Harry said. Honest, Bill repeated. Let me be honest with you then. You know what I think? I think you moved here because you wanted all the benefits of being American without any of the responsibility. You want the freedom, the opportunity, the platform, but you also want to stand above it all and look down on everyone else. Harry's jaw clenched. That's not true. Isn't it? Bill pressed. You left the royal family because you didn't want to be told what to do. You came to America because we don't bow to royalty here. But you still expect to be treated like you're special. Like you're better than everyone else. I never said I was better than anyone, Harry protested. Bill laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. You didn't have to say it. It's in everything you do. The way you talk. The way you carry yourself. You want to be treated like a regular person, but you can't let go of being a prince. Harry stood up this time, staying on his feet. I don't have to listen to this. You're right, Bill said, standing up too. You don't. There's the door. The audience gasped. Harry stared at Bill, his face a mixture of shock and anger. Excuse me? You heard me, Bill said, his voice calm but firm. If you think everything about America is so terrible, if you think we're all just uncultured and broken, then why are you here? Why are you on my show? Why are you living in my country? I was invited here, Harry said, his voice shaking. And now you're being uninvited, Bill replied. Because I don't need to sit here and be lectured by someone who's never had to work a real day in his life. Someone who's never had to struggle for anything. Someone who thinks that just because he was born into the right family, that gives him the right to look down on everyone else. Harry pointed a finger at Bill. You have no idea what I've been through. You're right, Bill said again. I don't. And honestly, I don't care. Because whatever you've been through, it doesn't give you the right to come into someone's home and insult them. And that's what you're doing. You're in my home, my show, my country, and you're being disrespectful. I'm being honest, Harry insisted. No, Bill said, shaking his head. You're being entitled, and there's a difference. Honesty is saying something true, even when it's hard. Entitlement is saying whatever you want, and expecting everyone to just accept it, because of who you are. Harry looked around at the audience, like he was expecting support, but the faces looking back at him weren't sympathetic. They were watching, waiting to see what would happen next. This is ridiculous, Harry muttered. You know what's ridiculous? Bill asked. The fact that you can't see it. You can't see how you sound. You came here talking about wanting privacy, but you've done more interviews than most celebrities. You talk about wanting to be normal, but you can't stop reminding everyone that you're a prince. You criticize the media, but you use the media whenever it suits you. That's not fair, Harry said, but his voice was weaker now. Life's not fair, Bill shot back. I thought a prince would know that, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe you've been protected from reality for so long that you don't actually know what fair means. Harry's hands were shaking. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating your words, Bill corrected. You said Americans don't understand real culture. You said everything here is broken. Those are your words, not mine. So what am I twisting? The silence in the studio was crushing. Everyone was watching Harry, waiting for his response. But he didn't have one. He just stood there, his mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find the words. Here's the thing, Harry, Bill continued, and his voice was softer now, but somehow that made it worse. I actually felt bad for you at first. I really did. The way the press treated you and your wife, that was wrong. The way your family handled things, that was wrong too. But you know what? That doesn't give you a free pass to be a hypocrite. It doesn't mean you get to lecture everyone else while doing the exact same things you criticize them for. I'm not doing the same things, Harry protested. Really? Bill asked. You complain about media intrusion, but you signed deals with Netflix and Spotify to tell your story. You talk about wanting privacy, but you wrote a book sharing your family's private conversations. You criticize people for being obsessed with fame and money, but you're living in a mansion and making millions of dollars from that fame. Harry's face was completely red now. I'm trying to make a difference. By insulting the people you're trying to reach? Bill asked. That's your strategy? Come to America, tell Americans they're uncultured and broken, and then expect them to listen to you. I didn't mean it like that, Harry said quietly. Then how did you mean it? Bill demanded. Because I'm listening. The audience is listening. Tell us what you really meant. Harry looked down at his feet. I think there are things that could be better. Of course there are, Bill agreed. There are always things that could be better. But there's a difference between wanting to help and looking down on people. And right now, you sound like you're looking down on everyone. Harry lifted his head. I'm not looking down on anyone. Then why did you say Americans don't understand real culture? Bill pressed. Why did you say everything here is broken? Those aren't the words of someone who wants to help. Those are the words of someone who thinks he's better than everyone else. Maybe I do think that, Harry blurted out, and the moment the words left his mouth, you could see him regret it. The audience erupted, not in applause, but in shocked gasps and angry murmurs. Bill just stared at Harry, nodding slowly. There it is, Bill said quietly. Finally, the truth. Harry tried to backtrack. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, Bill said. And you know what? I appreciate the honesty. I really do. Because now, we all know exactly who we're dealing with. Someone who thinks he's better than everyone else just because of the family he was born into. That's not fair, Harry said again, but it sounded hollow now. You keep saying that, Bill observed, but you still haven't explained what you meant. You still haven't apologized for insulting my audience, my country, and frankly me. Harry straightened his shoulders, trying to regain some composure. I don't think I need to apologize for speaking my mind. No, you don't, Billy agreed. But then I don't need to let you stay on my show. So like I said before, there's the door. You can't kick me off, Harry said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Watch me, Bill replied. He turned to someone off camera. Can we get security in here, please? That's when Harry realized this wasn't a joke. This wasn't some bit for television. Bill was actually serious. You're really going to do this? He asked. You gave me no choice, Bill said. I invited you here for a conversation. Not to be insulted. Not to have my country insulted. Not to watch you act like you're doing everyone a favor by being here. Harry looked around desperately. This is insane. What's insane, Bill said, is that you don't see the problem. You came here with all this anger, all this superiority, and you expected everyone to just nod along. But that's not how this works. You don't get to demand respect while showing none. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the stage. Harry saw them, and his eyes widened. You're serious. Completely serious, Bill confirmed. I've been doing this show for a long time. I've had guests I disagreed with. I've had heated debates. But I've never had someone sit in that chair and show such blatant disrespect for everything and everyone around them. Harry's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I didn't mean to disrespect anyone. But you did, Bill said simply. And when you were called out on it, instead of apologizing, you doubled down. You made it worse. And then you admitted that you actually do think you're better than everyone else. The security guards were standing right behind Harry now. He could feel their presence. This is a mistake, he said. The only mistake, Bill replied, was thinking you could come here and get away with this behavior. Maybe in the palace, people let you say whatever you want. Maybe they bow and scrape and pretend you're always right. But not here. Not on my show. Not in my country. Harry looked at Bill one last time, and for just a second, You could see something in his face. Maybe it was realization. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was just anger. But whatever it was, it didn't last long. "Fine," Harry said, his voice tight. "I'll leave." "Good choice," Bill said. Harry started walking toward the side of the stage, the security guards following close behind. But then he stopped and turned back. "You know what, Bill? You talk about respect, but you've shown me none tonight." Bill didn't hesitate. "Respect is earned, Harry, not inherited. And tonight, you did nothing to earn it." Harry's mouth opened like he wanted to say something else, but nothing came out. He just stood there for a moment, then turned and walked off the stage. The security guards followed him, and the sound of his footsteps echoed through the silent studio. Bill watched him go, then turned back to the audience. His face was serious, no trace of his usual humor. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that. I don't usually kick guests off my show. In fact, I've never done it before. But I will not sit here and be told that my country, the country that gave that man a home when he wanted to leave his own, is somehow beneath him." The audience started clapping, slowly at first, then building to a roar of applause. Bill held up his hand to quiet them down. "Here's the thing about America," he continued. "We're not perfect. We know that. We've got problems, lots of them. But we also have something special. We have the freedom to speak our minds, to challenge authority, to build whatever life we want. And yeah, sometimes we're loud and messy, and we don't always have the best manners. But we don't bow to anyone. We don't accept that some people are just born better than others." The applause grew louder. Bill waited for it to die down before continuing. "So when someone comes here, enjoys all those freedoms, lives in luxury because of those freedoms, and then has the nerve to look down on us, to call us uncultured and broken, that's where I draw the line. I don't care if you're a prince or a president or the Pope. You don't get to disrespect people and expect them to just take it." Someone in the audience shouted, "That's right." Others joined in, and soon the whole studio was on its feet. Bill smiled for the first time since Harry had left. "Thank you. But seriously, we need to move on. We've got a great show planned, and I'm not going to let one entitled guest ruin it." The audience laughed, finally releasing some of the tension that had been building throughout the confrontation. Bill sat back down at his desk, shuffling some papers. "When we come back," he said, looking directly at the camera, "we'll be talking to someone who actually appreciates being in America. Someone who knows what it's like to work hard and earn success. Someone who, unlike our previous guest, doesn't think he's better than everyone else just because of his last name." The audience cheered again. The cameras cut away for a commercial break, but backstage, Harry was still standing there, surrounded by security guards, his face a mask of shock and anger. He pulled out his phone, his hands still shaking, and started typing furiously. One of the security guards cleared his throat. "Sir, we need to escort you out of the building." Harry looked up at him, and for a moment, you could see him considering arguing. But then something seemed to deflate in him. His shoulders sagged. His grip on his phone loosened. "Fine," he said quietly. "Let's go." As they walked down the long corridor toward the exit, Harry could hear the audience laughing at something Bill had said. The sound followed him all the way out, a reminder of how badly things had gone wrong. Back in the studio, Bill was in his element again, joking with the audience, setting up the next segment. He didn't mention Harry again. Didn't need to. The message had been sent, and everyone had heard it loud and clear. You don't come into someone's home and insult them. You don't enjoy the benefits of a country while looking down on its people. And you definitely don't think that being born into royalty gives you the right to treat others as beneath you. These were the lessons Bill had taught that night. Not through some long lecture or political speech, but through action. Through standing up for his show, his country, and his audience. The rest of the episode went smoothly. Bill's next guest was warm and funny and grateful to be there. The contrast couldn't have been more obvious. Here was someone who had worked for everything they had, who appreciated every opportunity, who understood that respect goes both ways. During the commercial break, someone from the crew came up to Bill. "That was intense," they said. "Are you okay?" Bill nodded. "I'm fine. It needed to be done." "Do you think you were too hard on him?" Bill considered the question for a moment. "No," he said finally. "If anything, I wish I'd called him out sooner. The moment he started insulting Americans, I should have stopped him. But I gave him chances to clarify, to walk it back, to show some humility. He chose not to take any of those chances." The crew member nodded. The audience loved it. "It's not about what the audience loves," Bill said. "It's about setting boundaries, about showing people that fame and titles don't give you the right to be disrespectful." As the show continued, word of what had happened was already spreading. People in the audience were texting their friends. Clips would be shared. The moment would be analyzed and discussed and debated. But in that studio, in that moment, all that mattered was that Bill had stood his ground. He had defended his show, his values, and his audience. He had shown that no matter who you are or where you come from, respect is not optional. It's required. When the show finally ended and the audience filed out, they were still buzzing with energy. This wasn't just another episode. This was something they would remember. Something they would talk about for years to come. And Bill? He went back to his dressing room, sat down, and let out a long breath. It had been one of the most challenging moments of his career, but also one of the most important. Because sometimes standing up for what's right means standing up to someone powerful. It means risking backlash and criticism and controversy. It means drawing a line and refusing to let anyone cross it, no matter who they are. Bill had drawn that line tonight, and he had no regrets about it whatsoever,